Reform of our criminal justice system. It's the outcry really going out throughout the world these days, and for good reason. Significant problem that many members of society that we grapple with on a daily basis, and is constantly being debated at the highest levels of government, the highest levels. Joining me right now to talk about their personal and very different experiences with the ongoing issue of criminal justice reform is Alum, Jesus, all right, Ramirez, MSW class of 2017. That's right. Go Troy, right? And also Adrian Reveles. First of all, criminal justice reform. Why criminal justice reform? Why is it even important? Why are we talking about it? Why is it an issue? What are your thoughts about it? I mean, you've got experience, everything. Let's talk about it.
Well, you actually just have to see to go. You could literally Google this, and statistics are the disparities between racial ethnicity, and it's really ridiculous. In all honesty, if you look at incarceration rates among let's talk about worldwide, right?
Okay.
We have here in the United States 2.2 million incarcerated individuals, of which a great percentage rate of them are people of color. When you look at it also worldwide, out of 25 out of 100 individuals who are incarcerated around the world are here in the United States.
Amazing. Yeah, you know, I was looking at some statistics and some stuff on CNN and following the First Step Act that just recently happened not too long ago. I'll talk about that acronym in just a little bit. But the recidivism rates are high. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You've got first-time offenders and this maximum, the minimum, you know, for the minimum, that whole way in which we prosecute, all of that is certainly impacting not only the inmates who are in, but it impacts their families too. You know, from a social perspective, these are fathers, these are brothers, these are cousins, these are friends, and they're in a community, and the community is impacted because there's a hole there, right? And so even for you, you've experienced the prison system, but in a very different way.
Yes.
You want to speak to that?
Well, yes. I've been in and out of the prison system since I was a teenager. From a very young age, I was basically criminalized for very minor infractions in school, in minor school infractions. I went through the system where at that time there was not, and still is a problem where there's not much of a support system out here and we're talking about at a policy level, right?
Sure.
So I experienced going back in and out of prison. There was a lot of challenges, that I went through. And because of these challenges, there were many times that I went back, and that's what we're talking about, recidivism. But I've been able to overcome it with the support system. And I owe a lot of that to particularly one family member is my sister. But also I owe this a lot to two great social workers that I've met. But I am sadly an outlier, what we call an outlier research, right?
I made it out.
Yes, yes. And sadly, I wish there were more individuals like me, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to bring awareness to the situation.
And you know, the interesting thing is historically in this country, it's certainly, at least for the last 10 years with the Obama administration, people like Valerie Jarrett, right? Eric Holder, you know, they've been working on this for really over the last 10 years. And so it's interesting. I was watching television and on Google and just seeing what's going on in the world as it centers around this. And so when I think about that First Step Act that actually was enacted, what was it, December 2018, and I think President Trump signed it in 2019. But First Step Act, and I know you guys know what this is, I'm just gonna tell them very quickly. First, formerly, incarcerated I is the acronym. Incarcerated re-enter society, transformed, safely transitioning every person act. That's what the First Step Act is all about. And so listening to you and your story, that's exactly sort of what is happening. There was a re-entry and the transitioning. And actually what it's designed to do, the First Step Act of 2019 is actually designed to reduce the recidivism rate and to do something about these, what do we call those? The mandatory minimums. People like the Republican Tom Cotton, who actually was against the First Step Act. I mean, it's very interesting to me. We keep talking about this. We know that there's a problem, and it became a bipartisan. Thank God, which is why it passed. You had the Democrats and Republicans, they crossed the aisle and everybody came together, because I think we can all see that the system is broken. So it appears that there's some political goodwill going on now. Do you agree? Do you think that at the local level, the community level, the feds are now catching up to it? What do you think, Jesus?
Yeah, so first, thank you for having me here. I want to speak on as far as I don't think that our communities have the sustainability to assist these individuals transitioning out. That's where I think the biggest problem is.
Okay.
We have all these great laws going into effect by liberal politicians, and then you have the conservatives that are not really gung-ho about releasing a lot of individuals.
Yes.
Early release, 109, Prop 147. So they get early release, 90 days, flash incarceration, and unfortunately, we don't have these great resources that will assist these individuals transitioning out of the jail to a job, to get benefits, to get housing. And if they're not able to meet their primary needs, how are they able to survive?
They resort back to what they know.
Yeah, and a lot of these offenders, unfortunately, are dual diagnosis, mental health, and substance abuse.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's a lot of need for these people, but we don't have it.
Exactly, and really, it exacerbates symptoms. You're right. So to get out of the prison system, but then to have nowhere to go, really, it's like being incarcerated all over again. And the interesting thing is, I wonder. So that whole transitioning period, there's a lack there. How do you think we could fill it? We've got social workers who are prepared like you are prepared on tap. You probably have some ideas about that, huh?
Yeah, well, I work at the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, the defense program there, and we have different teams that assist these individuals. One of them is the jail linkage team. They do a phenomenal job in their best efforts to try to assist these individuals with housing and community resources, mental health treatment centers out in the community. However, a lot of times individuals with mental health recidivate. 75% come back to jail.
Absolutely.
That's a huge number.
Absolutely.
And can I speak on that real quick? I just think for the First Step Back, I mean, it's something. It's a start. It's a start, especially because it was long overdue, especially about the crack cocaine and the powder.
Oh, that's right.
Issue on that.
That's right. I forgot to mention that.
And it's been long overdue. It's a piece of paper. It's a piece of legislature that they're putting on the table, right? That it's been enacted. Okay. But we have to see where the funding, how much funding is there, and the manpower, right? Because a lot of these, it's even after you get the funding, you still got to find professionals, right? Properly paid professionals in order to assist us,
and people who are sensitive to the needs of
culturally competent.
Yes,
culturally competent individuals who's going to understand where these individuals are coming from, their sensitivities, their way of thinking, and that's why I came back into social work myself, because this is where I believe in my heart I'm able to make a difference.
I love it.
Because I'm able to understand these individuals from where they're coming from. I know basically more or less how they're thinking.
Right, you've been on
how they're thinking.
Sides,
yes, I've been on the other side, and I was able to reform. So I'm able to give them some guidance and direction. I'm also able to consult with agencies, and hopefully one day with governmental agencies, in assisting them in how to develop some certain programs that will fit the specific needs of this population.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just incredible. I want to read you guys, and I'm going to read these quotes, and I want you to tell me, what do you think about it?
Okay.
All right. What do you think when you hear this? Texas closed 3 prisons and saved $3 billion. And they say crime rates dropped. So, is it a matter of goodwill that now we're into our criminal prison reform? Or is it a matter of dollars and cents? Why now? What do you think?
So I think of it as a state point of view where they're trying to save money. California is in the same bubble. We're trying to save money. So how are the prisons going to reduce their numbers? early release. How is Texas doing it? Closing 3 prisons. But where do these people or offenders go?
Ding, 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 ding. There you go. It's right there. And it's what you
So-
all, yeah.
Let me add on to
Yes,
that.
yes.
So are these state prisons that they closed?
Yeah, these, wait a minute. State and I think maybe one of them was fed.
Okay. So my first thought is, do the private prisons have something to do with this?
See, now okay, y'all, we're about to get deep. So look, all right,
I'm just throwing it out there, right?
Hey, we're about to get deep. Look,
There's always
let's talk
a
about
motivation for something.
Absolutely. You know what? And so here, I was watching one of the experts, one of the television pundits the other night. And so she was talking about this and she said, why now? On MSNBC, why now? All of a sudden we're doing this. Now, I got a theory. Isn't it interesting? They say, you know, we've learned from the 80s and 90s with the whole crack cocaine situation. You know, what do? We just locked them up and threw away the key, right? We did our whole, 3 strikes and you're out. And even for, non-violent drug offenders. And so now here we are, because now the pendulum has swung the other way, right? Now we have the dominant social paradigm. Their children are now caught up in this whole drug craze, right? Meth and the opioid crisis. And so now what are we going to do? We have to decriminalize everything. We can't put our kids who look like us, kids who look like folks on Capitol Hill, we can't put them in jail next to kids who look like us.
Yes, because of the opioid epidemic that's happening.
And that's not me talking. That's just what I've heard. And so I want to know what you guys,
statistics.
right? So what do you think about that? And so isn't it great that we're doing this criminal reform, particularly with the First Step Act? But as you've already said, where they're coming to, it's great to put the act out there on paper. But if they have nowhere to come to, we cannot absorb, right, the social, the psychological help that they need. Where do they go? Your thoughts?
Well, statistics will show you that they'll get back to using substances, go back to reoffend, and then flood our local jails versus the prison. So in a matter of time, they'll just end up into another prison, unfortunately, because we don't have those resources in the local communities, like Brilliant Corners that will help you out with like housing, jobs, like I was telling you earlier about benefits, or there's another program that's out there that we deal with. It's Office of Diversion and Reentry.
Tell us about that.
It's someone that has been identified through our AB 109 system, a bill,
Assembly bill
that will allow early release for non-violent, non-serious offenders here in California. Well, they'll do a maximum incarceration 90 days.
Okay. Let me read this to you, and it's 3 statements, and let's see what you think. All right, we're still dealing with criminal justice reform and looking at this First Step Act because it sounds like you're a fan, but you're a bit suspicious. You're wondering what are we going to do with it.
Yeah.
All right, what would it do? So if you're out there, you're wondering, so I've never heard of the First Step Act, and I'm trying to figure out what does it do? What will it do? Give judges more leeway to diverge from strict mandatory minimum sentencing laws for non-violent drug offenders. We sort of addressed that already, but it seems like they're coming on the back end doing a little something because now they know, it's not a mandatory minimum. Okay, next. Eliminate the possibility of life without parole for 3-strike drug offenders. Fan, not a fan?
Pro.
For 3...
It eliminates. It'll eliminate the possibility, well, it does now for sure, eliminates the possibility of life without parole for 3-strike drug offenders, non-violent drug offenders.
Of course, pro. I mean, yes,
Pro.
because it's not. I mean, these aren't
Serious,
most of these individuals. The crimes that they do commit, other than drugs, let's say stealing a car or things like that. It's done basically because of the addiction that they have.
Exactly.
Right. I know. What I did it because I was under the influence. But I'm not making that as an excuse, right? But I was just the lifestyle I lived because I was under the influence most of the time.
Senator Tom Cotton said this specifically, and I quote, "Fix the First Step Act and keep violent criminals behind bars." It sounds like, for those who are against this whole idea, is that if you are a criminal, you are a criminal. And by virtue of being a criminal, that makes you violent. I'd have to ask him. I haven't interviewed him yet, but I think I do know for sure that there are many people who feel that way. The idea of breaking the law makes you, on some level, even benignly so, violent. Your thoughts?
Of course not.
Okay.
It's that would be like if because technically, if you jaywalk, that's breaking the law, right?
Except in Mayberry, because Aunt B did it all the time on Andy Griffith, and I'm telling you, only Barney Fife got in the way of that and tried to have him jailed.
So, to some degree, we all have some type of antisocial tendencies, right? To some degree, right? Yeah, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
He's using that loosely, not in the DSM-5 sense of antisocial personality disorder.
But I think one thing we haven't heard about is the new Jim Crow.
Oh, I
speak on that.
All right, let's talk about it, baby, because I've heard about it. All right,
Yeah,
I live it.
I'm sure you heard of.
I live it, right?
I'm sure you heard of Miss Michelle Alexander, right? That I think that is what has exacerbated our incarceration rates.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to remember the war on drugs. It all began with the war on drugs.
Wow, absolutely. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
you got 1 minute.
Okay,
say it very quickly.
The war on drugs. Okay, back in back in 1970 something,
and it really hit. Yeah, exactly. That was Reagan. By the time 1980 hit, for sure, they had changed the whole structure. War on poverty and war on drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. At this point. The Civil Rights Act that came into play. This is my personal opinion, okay? This is not USC opinion, but this is my personal. The war on drugs came into play, but you know what statistics show it, okay? When the Civil Rights Movement, right after the Civil Rights Movement happened, right? So what does the upper echelon of society say after the Civil Rights Act? Okay, so now they have all these rights. So now they're going to start to move into these political positions, right? Where they're going to start to get power, right? Okay, what can we do now in order to control them? People of color, because their idea is that people of color shouldn't have that much power in our society to change policy or write laws, right? So then they started this war on drugs thing, right? This is another way. That's the new Jim Crow law. If anybody knows, I'm not trying to, but Michelle Alexander, she puts it better than I can, better than a lot of people can, because that's her baby, the new Jim Crow law.
He makes valid points, and I think there's lots of research, and people educate yourself. I mean, that's really all we're saying. The system is broken, and there's bipartisan support. So it suggests to me that on both sides of the aisle, there has to be something wrong for Democrats and Republicans to come together, right, to meet with clinicians and et cetera, which is, I think, what has to happen. And I think here the School of Social Work is doing just that. That's what you guys are doing. You have been educated. You're out there in the world now. You are about to go out into the world completely fluid in everything with all the knowledge and continuing to learn. And we need, this is the face of clinicians. This is the face of social work. Everybody has to be at the table, and in order for it to be effective, that's really all we're saying. Everybody needs to be at the table.
Come to the table.
Come to the table.
And
There's
not a play for you.
That's right.
There's
okay.
a play for you.
That's right, to eat fully, and not just for color. All right, it doesn't mean anything. Diversity means absolutely nothing if it's only colorful and not meaningful. All right, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I should have took one of your classes.
Yeah, you should have. It would have been great to have you in there.
Okay.
Thank you both. We really appreciate it.